Hello, my dear brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the video. My name is Joel, and I wanted to talk to you about what is faith. Because under some comfortable environments, with our careers going well and our family lives maintaining the peace, many of us will have the faith to follow the Lord, actively read our Bibles and attend gatherings. But however, when something unpleasant happens to us, we'll become weak. And so, for an example, when we start to face life's difficulties because of maybe losing our job, when our families lose that peace due to something going against our wishes, or when we are maybe refused a new job in spite of our praying, we then start to lose faith in God. And so then, in consideration of all these things, what is real faith exactly? As for this question, there are two passages of God's words that speak very clearly. So God says, what does this word faith refer to? Faith is the genuine belief and the sincere heart that humans should possess when they cannot see or touch something, when God's work does not align with human notions, when it is beyond human reach. This is the faith that I speak of. People are in need of faith during times of hardship and refinement, and faith is something that is followed by refinement. Refinement and faith cannot be separated. No matter how God works, and no matter your environment, you are able to pursue life and seek the truth, and seek knowledge of God's work, and have an understanding of His actions, and you are able to act according to the truth. Doing so is what it is to have true faith, and doing so shows that you have not lost faith in God. You can only have true faith in God if you are able to persist in pursuing the truth through refinement, if you're able to truly love God and do not develop doubts about Him, if no matter what He does, you still practice the truth to satisfy Him, and if you are able to seek in the depths for His will and be considerate of His will. When you face suffering, you must be able to lay aside concern for the flesh and to not make complaints against God. When God hides Himself from you, you must be able to have the faith to follow Him, to maintain your previous love without allowing it to falter or dissipate. No matter what God does, you must submit to His design and be prepared to curse your own flesh rather than make complaints against Him. When you are faced with trials, you must satisfy God, though you may weep bitterly or feel reluctant to part with some beloved object. Only this is true love and faith. Amen. And so from these words, we can see that true faith is the belief that we should possess when God's work is not in accordance with our notions. When we face suffering and hardships, we do not lose our faith in God or complain against God, and are able to follow God as always. And even if we can't see His actions after praying, we still completely believe in His work and words without any doubts, and have an obedient heart to seek out His will. This is true faith. To better understand this aspect of truth, let's look at the experiences of Job and Moses. And so here comes true faith in suffering and trials. And so Job was the richest man in the East. However, in the trials and in a very short time, all his possessions were robbed by bandits, and his sons and daughters were crushed to death in the collapse of his house. Facing all this, Job didn't complain against God, because he had seen a lot of God's deeds through all things, and thus deeply understood that everything he had ever owned was bestowed by God. And therefore, even though God took away everything from him, he never lost his faith in God because of his losses in his own interest, and instead he said, Jehovah gave and Jehovah has taken away. Blessed be the name of Jehovah. Afterward, Job became covered with boils. When his wife advised him to curse God, he had said, You speak as one of the foolish women speaks. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of God, and shall we not receive evil? And because of his true faith, Job was able to obey God's orchestrations and arrangements in his trials, thus bearing resounding witness. In the end, he saw the back of Jehovah God and heard his voice. And here comes true faith in refinement. And so for Moses, as everybody who has read the Bible knows, before leading the Israelites out of Egypt, was exiled by Pharaoh to the wilderness because of killing an Egyptian. And Moses was originally an Egyptian prince and led a very extravagant life in the palace. However, he had to raise sheep to make a living when in the wilderness, and he could interact with only animals, with nobody to talk to. We may wonder how he lived such a life. To everyone's surprise, in those tough years, Moses, through praying to God and relying on him, survived in the wilderness. What's more, after 40 years of refinement, not only his hot blood and natural personality were ground away, but also he developed true faith in God, being a man after God's heart. Thus, after that, Jehovah formally used him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. And when God called him, Moses didn't make any personal choices, refuse or falter, but instead accepted God's commission. It is through 40 years of refinement that Moses achieved this kind of faith. And so, in summary, it can be seen that true faith reveals itself in trials and refinements. And though the circumstances that Job and Moses encountered were not the same, they were very similar in that they were faced with adversities. They still prayed to and praised God and maintained their faith in him, no matter what he had done. And so, therefore, in the end, they received God's approval and blessings. And we can see from these facts that every environment that we encounter is arranged specifically for each of us by God. And that's God's intention, is to perfect our faith and knowledge of God, and also to purify us. The trials that Job elevated his faith in God and knowledge of God, and the refinements that Moses experienced made him cast off his temper and naturalness and be qualified to be used by God. So though we haven't encountered circumstances like theirs, their experiences give us the right direction. No matter what kind of hardships or setbacks that we meet within our life, no matter what misfortunes befall our family, we must not deny God's name and must have true faith in God's sovereignty and omnipotence, just like Job and Moses. And we are still able to pray to God and rely on God to face those adversities with obedience. And so by doing this, we will have achieved true faith in God and gained more knowledge of him. And so, my dear brothers and sisters, I really hope that this little short video has helped you in some way about what is true faith and how we can achieve that. And so once again, as always, I bid you farewell, my dear brothers and sisters. I hope to see you on the next one. Take care, and God bless.